guess, are we live? Is that happening right now? What's going on here? Guys, let me know if we are live. that's how incompetent I am. Yeah. Oh, I am. Somebody just said you are live. Was there like an intro video that started?
Incompetent I am. Yeah.
Was there like an intro video that started somewhere? Because I'm asking the audience here, when I had originally tried to set up this video, it had the idea of I tried to do a trailer video of one of the shorts. Oh, of me playing with domino. Yeah, okay, that's great, Monkey. So that did in fact happen, and I just missed it. Okay, perfect. Because I'm Gen X, but I'm a boomer when it comes to knowing the least bit about how to make any of this technology work, right? So unlike Double D, who's actually older than I am chronologically, but who clearly knows how to make much better video than I do, I do not have any kind of a special opening video, and it's why when we start right now, there's a few people on the line, which is very nice, but we know from experience that it takes 10 or 15 minutes for a more sizable crowd to come on. And so usually we just wait around, we chat with the audience. So guys, we've got here Dave and George from Emperor's Choice, and we're going to be explaining who they are and what they're doing. But in short, it is this is part of the Arduin revival, which I am a big supporter of. It's a part of the old school revival, of course, but it's a very, very significant one, and it's, having gotten these Arduin books. There are two others downstairs, but I didn't bother to grab them. It's remarkable how influential it is that Arduin is to the OSR and to all the stuff the OSR does today. Okay, so let's see. First of all, Dave and George, can you guys see the comments, or you're not getting comments, or are you? Yes,
I can see them. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I just wanted to check that because some people, for whatever reason, can't sometimes see it in the StreamYard. But if you guys can see it, that's good. So if someone asks you a question directly, you can respond to them. And
I am also dual logged into YouTube, so I have both chats open.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. Dave will usually take care of any chats and questions there. I can see it right to my right here.
Yeah. So you guys are going to be you guys are splitting the duties basically.
Yeah.
That's clever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not the talker like George, so
yeah.
Well, perfect. So I was going to say something now when we were waiting here for some more people to come along. To the audience, first of all, I welcome to all of you. I'm guessing that, I see several of people that I've seen here before, but if anybody has come in here because of Emperor's Choice, you're fans of theirs and you've come to see them. I'm the RPG Pundit, and this is my live stream show, which I do once every 4 weeks, doing long form interviews with a variety of people who are involved mostly in the OSR. Once in a while, we get somebody who is technically not the OSR, and I hope you will enjoy the channel. But we're a very lo-fi kind of production here. That's for sure.
Did like your cat video that was part of the intro to this.
Yeah. Well, I use those as shorts, and then when I saw that I could try to make it a trailer for the live stream, I decided to go with that. Speaking of, guys, you wanted to see Domino, here she is. And there she is attacking me already. Hey, this is not time for that. This is not time for wrestling. All right. Ow. And guys, speaking of Domino, so this live stream, as always, because I've been told that it's irritating for people to get like, stop it, for people to get commercials in the middle of the live stream. It's not actually monetized right now, but if you want to send your appreciation and support, we are very welcome of there we go. We're very welcome of super chats. All super chats go to the Domino Cat Toy Fund, although it should really be Kibble Fund at this point because she's not so much into playing with toys anymore, but she is very much into eating kibbles. I think she's getting a little fat, actually. We're going to have to regulate that. Obviously, if you send a super chat and you have a comment, I will definitely read that comment, unless it would get me banned from YouTube. And if you don't do super chats, I will also read any comments that I find interesting. I'm not one of those channels where you have to pay to be read, So yeah. We'll see what happens. We got here a few comments so far. Bo Paints Minis loves me, all things Empcho. I guess that would be how to pronounce that.
Yeah, Empcho.
And he also says, big fan of both World of the Last Sun plus Arduin Grimoire, makes a really fun Friday night. Well, yeah, the Arduin is definitely a spiritual ancestor of my own Last Sun setting. So, because both of them are extremely gonzo in fairly similar ways. Mine is a little more silly, but nevertheless. All right, so we're at the where the hell's the? I always miss where the clock is. Oh, there it is. We're at the 7-minute mark. We'll give people a little bit more time to see if they're coming in now. We've got about 16 people in the chat now, I think. If you guys are fans of Emperor's Choice or of the Pundit, please share on your social media that this live stream is happening right now, and then that way we can get some more people to come in and watch it. And we're going to be talking about, obviously, Emperor's Choice, their company, what they're doing, and about Arduin. But we will also, in that kind of context, we'll be talking about the impact of Arduin, its significance, and also what how it's actually inspired the OSR in many ways. All right, and then we'll see if there's anything. Then this is mainly for the audience here. If there's any current events in the RPG world that you want us to talk about, keep in mind that George and Dave are not like my more typical guests who tend to be kind of political pundits or something like in terms of the politics of RPGs. But if there's something that you want to talk about the industry or about the politics of the hobby that have been happening recently, well, I can try to address it. Okay. So, well, I'm gonna comment one thing while we're waiting. I was gonna do this anyways. So my upcoming game, Sons of Heaven, as you know, is in the final stages of production right now. Madscribe Press sent me the let's say, draft PDF of the product. I mean, which is basically the entire thing, except it hasn't been indexed or something like that. So I could start reviewing it. I have to say, the artwork, the layout, as would be expected by Mad Scribe, is spectacular. It looks fantastic, and it's incredible because it's one thing if you're doing a game that is, let's say, set in vaguely medieval fantasy, or if you're doing a game that is set in, let's say, a historical period, right? Like, I don't know, the Age of Sail or the Roman Empire, right? That making good, consistent art in that style, okay, that is understandable, right? But Sons of Heaven is a sci-fi game, and it's not a sci-fi game based on a TV show or a film or something like that. So you couldn't directly look at it in any context except for me telling him, and in the text of my game, writing what it was supposed to look like, and I'm just blown away by how close it comes to the imaginated version of that setting in my head in terms of the artwork that he did. The Mad Scribe is a real professional at that, and it's pretty incredible. And if he's done that with a science fiction game where he wouldn't have had any kind of particular hints or cues or what have you, imagine what he's going to do with the Roman game. That's going to be tremendous too, I think. But anyway, so the news for my followers is that I am now in the stage of doing the review of the PDF. There's probably going to have to be a few corrections, and then it's going to be submitted to drive-through, and that means that it's on track, and that means that it is going to end up. Damn it, cat! Don't play with that. It's going to end up being available by around July, probably the middle of July, I would think. We'll see. Maybe earlier if drive-through is really speedy about it. They used to be slower, at least with me, and now it looks like they're not as slow with me as they used to be. So who knows? All right. So we are now at, what time are we at? We're at 12:52. Oh yeah, I think we've got 18 people in the chat. I think we could get started if you guys are in agreement.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Now, first of all, can the audience hear all three of us all right? I've been talking for a long time. Nobody said I can't hear you. What are you doing? Crazy cat. All right. Please let George and Dave know if you can hear them. Guys, say something. Say hello.
Howdy.
Hello, everybody.
Okay. All clear? Seems like everybody's okay with
Yeah.
that.
Domino for president.
Because sometimes it's hard to know, right? Like you sound fine to yourself, or we would sound fine to each other, and then for whatever reason the audience can't hear one of the other.
Yeah.
But it says all clear. Okay.
Good.
So this is, at long last, the RPG Pundit Encounter. This is episode 23, and today we've got Emperor's Choice games. And I don't know if either of you have watched an episode of the Pundit Encounter, but we always start with the same question to everybody who's interviewed. The first and last question are always the same to everybody involved, right? And so that question is, well, you guys are you have this company, Emperor's Choice Games. You've been working at trying to revive Arduin, or maybe not revive, because it's always been there in some way, but to revitalize, let's say. And you've recently gotten involved more directly, I think, with the OSR. You've got, you've made collaborations with people like Matthew Tapp and stuff like that. And so the question for either of you, or both, I don't know. I think one of you is going to be doing the chat, and one of you is going to be doing the talking. All right. So I guess that would be George who'll be doing the talking. Is that okay? So
for the most part, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if you ever want to chime in, feel free to do so, Dave. Right? But
Okay.
so the question is this: who has been good to you, and who has been bad to you? Okay, this is your chance to congratulate or to call out all of the enemies that you've accrued so far, or all the friends.
Well, I would say we've been Pundit in business. We've been incorporated since 1998, and Dave and I started previous to that. We were doing like retail sales for games and stuff like that, and then we got into miniatures, and then from there we played Arduin, and we then decided we needed a product, so we went. Dave found where Arduin was, and we bought it. And I would say, just a quick synopsis of that, and our last, my God, it'll be 30 years in 2028 that we've been doing this. And I would say for the most part, when you say, what's been good and what's been bad to you, you know what? We've had a lot of good people, from obviously our family to friends to the industry people, and even some of the bigger names in the industry, like Gary Gygax, Luke Gygax, even from Chaosium, when you look at Greg Stafford and others
He was a great guy
with us. There's a lot of good people in the industry there. I would say what's hurt us, the bad, has been fate sometimes with things where we've had to have gone through some, unfortunate events, which took us out of the industry for a while. We've survived some, I wouldn't call it mistakes, but chances we took and that didn't work out, but we recovered, where probably a lot of companies would fall apart. And that is the biggest thing, is fate sometimes has been cruel to us in the industry. And just like anything else, Pundit, Dave and I are both military, former military. You always have 10%. 90% of the people are good. You always have the 10% that'll cause 10% of the people cause 90% of the problems. So I would say fate, for the most part, we've sidestepped for the most part the controversies, or staying out of that. I will say this, and people who know us, we've always been generous, kind, loyal. We've have certain qualities that we always believed in a company: resilience and compassion. And unfortunately, at times that'll get taken advantage of. And one of the things I've said is we have more holes in our back than a dartboard at times. But we can't change who we are. It's hard on the sleeve, and we believe in things, so we will continue to do it. It's a great strength, but it's also a weakness, to give you a synopsis of who we are, and what we've dealt. And just to kind of quantify a couple of those things where I said fate's been cruel. Early on, we actually had a deal for a card game. We created a card game for Arduin called Swords and Dragons, which was a game within the game that Dave Hargrave did. And we spent, my God, Dave, what it was, about $20,000 to make all the packs of cards. And we got lucky because we were at the Gamma Trade Show in 2000, and a media company picked it up from us and said they'd like to do a commercial, one of those old 1-800 commercials.
Okay.
And they did it, but unfortunately they aired it at 3:00 at night. I believe it was in Kansas City and Minnesota. So we only sold 3 copies of it. And we invested $20,000 in artwork and all this effort. That normally would have killed the company back in the early 2000s. But we were able to overcome that. And that was cruel because we had an opportunity. A company wanted to do a commercial for us, which we do have on YouTube. It's a 1.5-minute commercial. And it was great, but then it was horrible because it failed. So it put us in a real precarious situation. And we went through the ups and downs in the industry. And then in 2014, one of the biggest things that happened to us is my father passed away. 3 days later, Dave's father passed away. Then Dave's mother, within a couple months, passed away.
29 days.
how many, Dave? What was
29.
that? 29 days. And then my mother caught cancer. And even at that point, we had a sculptor, William Watt, who used to work for Grenadier working with us. And he lost his brother-in-law, I believe it was, Dave, right? His sister-in-law. He had a bunch of deaths. And
His brother was found dead on the floor and had been there for a week or something.
Yeah.
In the
So
kitchen. We had to lift the whole kitchen out.
Yeah.
And his wife.
It was horrible. The situations that us and a couple close people went through. So we took ourselves basically out of the industry for 7 years. We were dormant. We were still there. The company was still there, but it was kind of mostly inactive, dormant. And then we came back in 2021. And that was one of the big things. Dave became retired in 2021. We started talking and we're like, let's try it again. And we came back.
From 2014 to 2021, you were inactive completely.
Pretty much.
We would send stuff out here if we had it on hand.
Yeah. There was very little interaction that we would have.
Yeah. So when you came back, did you find that the whole scene was different and maybe more conducive to what you guys wanted to do?
It was kind of a shock because of how the online world had changed the complexion of the industry. How, things like this were live streams and, being online, being active and information getting out there was kind of new to, we were just starting to hit it in 2014. And then being out of it for 7 years, we come back and it's like, wow, the landscape has changed a bit. So it was a little bit of an adjustment period. One of the first people we interacted with, because he took a post that I did when we revitalized our website, was Eric Tenkar from Tenkar's Tavern.
Oh, yeah, good guy, yeah.
And I remember the night he did a post. We had no idea, and we just happened to see it. And I turned to Dave, and I go, who is this guy talking about, our post? I said, what is this? And, of course, we talked to him and went from there. But the landscape had changed, Pundit, for us. We weren't used to the online, the YouTube, how marketing now was much different than it was, 10 years earlier in the industry or even, in the early 2000s. So it was kind of an adjustment that we had to do at that point to kind of figure out, okay, what do you do now? You have to go on live streams. You have to market, on Facebook, on X. You got to have an online presence, and go from there. So it was an adjustment for us. But we pretty much dusted off the equipment and we just went full bore back into it, bringing the books back and getting the miniature cast going again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing that happened in the intervening period, ironically, my first foray into the OSR was published in 2014. That was Arrows of Indra. And from then to now, right, what has happened was this constant growth in the OSR, so like the old school revival. Originally, it was very kind of like this sort of amateur thing that was going on. And then it started to boom right around, that time period. And then it kept increasing. It's been actually steadily growing in terms of its sales value, let's call it, from at least 2016 until the present day. So like that's 10 years of solid growth. And that means that there's a crowd of people that are suddenly understanding the appeal of old school that wouldn't have been there before, right? So I figure if you're trying to sell Arduin now under these conditions, it's going to be a lot more accessible,
Correct. Yeah.
To reach an audience, I mean. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And especially, like you said, Pundit, 2013, 14, things were changing in the industry. Things were taking off, in a different way. And the industry was becoming bigger or more conscious to the general public. And it just started growing more and more, there.
and self-publishing was becoming so much easier, So,
yeah, because with the technology and the tools available, that became more accessible to people and allowed for people to get into the industry a lot easier, than back in Dave Hargrave's day, where he was literally typing everything on a typer, which is amazing to us.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah,
we got a $10 super sticker from. I don't even know what a super sticker is. I know what a super chat is, but
that was me.
That's Dave. That's from Dave.
Oh, I see. Oh, well, that's nice. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, that's Dave.
I appreciate that, Dave.
Yeah.
just to know, this isn't some kind of backdoor payment. This is not an infomercial. This is not a promoted product.
Yeah. All of a sudden, you're going to.
I guess Dave can be both a guest and an admirer at the same time, so that works out.
Yeah.
Dave's dual.
I've never heard of a super. Like, it's the first time I've seen a super sticker. I don't know if that's. They keep doing new stuff in YouTube,
but it was, like I said, quite the change, and the environment was different, so we had to adjust. And still we went back to the old ways for a little bit, but then we said, okay, we got to have a presence. We got to, get to a few conventions, which lucky enough, Black Blade Publishing, John Hirschberger, and Goodman Games invited us to GaryCon 2022. So we were able to go there, and that was our first exposure back into the convention scene for us with the 7-year hiatus. And as far as the Arduin books, we started immediately reprinting the books that we had many, many years before that, 10 years prior. And we're like, we want to get the books out there. And you're right, Pundit. We realized there was the OSR had grown, and there was a large portion of the industry that was looking for the retro game or the OSR, back to the beginning. So that gave us kind of a little conduit to get back into the industry. Of course, our miniatures are pewter miniatures, so they're metal white spin casting like the good old days, not plastic. So it just felt it was right for us to do that. But of course, it took us a couple of years to adjust, to come up with some game plans, and we're still in development, which we could talk about later. I know we'll want to get to the history, and I'm like to talk all about the history of Hargrave and lead up to this. But we've been in development for years, and we've done a couple Kickstarters now, which kind of got us in there because we did brand new Arduin maps in 2024, the Arduin Portal to Adventure, which we did in collaboration, with Barrows and Borderlands and the Lord of Things, the Secrets of Blackmore with Griff there. So that was quite historic of a Kickstarter, along with our previous one, because those were the first 2 Kickstarters we had ever done. And again, it was something new. We had no idea about Kickstarter or anything like that. So again, we had to adjust quickly to everything. But
Kickstarter is amazing, right? But
correct.
I myself have never used it. And the reason is because I've seen you could have a Kickstarter that makes $1 million, and you could go broke because of it, right? So it's a very tricky sort of thing.
Yeah, we were lucky because we did our homework before our first one in 2024, and again, we've only done 2, and we talked to people about their experience, the pitfalls, and when we did our Kickstarter, we went to a different mentality. We pretty much produced and had everything ready to go before the Kickstarter even finished. We shipped out our material within a month. Our Kickstarter ended July 31st, and all the products, all the rewards went out August 25th of that same year, which, interestingly enough, was the day Hargrave passed, was August 25th, 1980. Oh, yeah. We had shipped out all the last of the rewards. So our mentality with Kickstarter was different. We wanted to use it more as a marketing tool and a tool to get funds.
Yeah,
but we
wanted exactly right. Yeah.
Ready to go, because from what we've seen, thank God, now we've seen over the last couple of years, too many companies overpromise and underdeliver. They get themselves into trouble, or they take years to develop after. And it's like, my God, you're putting yourself, Pundit, in a bad situation, because if you start on a project now that people have paid you for, how do you know what your situation is going to be a year from now? The people
Absolutely.
are going to come, go, things happen, life happens. You never know.
Yeah, I've been a big analyst of this, right? And I've done a number over the years because I've had this YouTube channel for almost 8 years now, and I have consistently warned people, if you're going to do a Kickstarter, you need to have the main product finished before you start the Kickstarter, right? That is pretty much essential. And so many people don't do that, right? Get into massive problems, and it's like affected some important people in the hobby who've had to end up, paying for it and what have you. And it sounds like you guys are certainly using the right tactic there.
Yeah.
Let me just look through I'm losing the chat here. There's more people coming in, more people saying something. Okay, I've been putting up a few compliments that people are giving you guys.
Much appreciated.
You're clearly known by a significant percentage of the audience, which is good. So Emperor's Choice has been around for quite some time. So originally, when you guys, I don't know if both of you were founders of the company. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yep.
We both
together.
were.
Okay. And so initially, when you had started your company, what was the company for?
To buy games, really. Initially, we were, we played in high school. Just like everyone, we started in, my God, 81 or so, 80, right in the early 80s, and we were gamers. And after high school, Dave and I both went in the military. We were in the military. We came back. And we decided, why don't we give this a shot? And we loved games, and we loved playing miniature games and all types, Warhammer and war games, a whole plethora, role play, of course. And we decided, well, let's get a company together. We could start it, and then we can buy games, sell games. And then from there, it developed. The flashpoint was when Dave went and visited Chessex East. And when he went there, he was looking around. I don't know if you want to tell the story, Dave, of how that happened, but that's the story of how we went from games to miniatures, and then I could tell how we jumped to Arduin. Go ahead, Dave, about Chessex.
So I think it started just a little slightly different than we always say. We just kind of skipped this one little part. So we were doing a lot of miniature gaming at the time.
Correct.
And we were looking to build our armies out, as well as buy RPG books, and we were buying doubles, triples of everything because we just figured you had to do that at the time, not thinking you had to buy one or two of something. So we were thinking you had to buy cases and things like that. So we were doing that and then selling it to anybody locally, and we started buying miniatures that you could play for a Warhammer, and then we started figuring out essentially who had the better miniatures at the better rates. And somehow along the lines we fell in line with Grenadier because we were doing undead armies at the time, and that kind of got the whole ball rolling on buying undead. So when I was away on my 2 weeks active duty, it was with the Navy at that time, was down in a place called Willow Grove, Pennsylvania. Was in northern Pennsylvania, north of Philly, and I got a day off and I went over to Chessex East. I think they had 3 warehouses at the time, Midwest, West, and East, and got a little shopping cart and trolled through their entire warehouse, picking up stuff that was not in the catalogs, not in print, and came across that pallet of molds, which ended up being the archive miniature line from the 70s that Neville Stockton had created. And I think they got shut down for the illegal Star Wars figures because it was in the 70s when 7. And I think that kind of crushed them. So they had to go and, they had to dissolve the company and somehow Chessex ended up owning the rights, and there they were in the warehouse. So I made a dialogue with the owner, and we made a deal to buy the rights to Archive Miniatures and all the equipment that was there.
Yeah. So that started our dive into miniatures, fully being a manufacturer.
And away from buying, other companies' stuff and selling it locally, we kind of transformed.
We started being producers instead of middlemen.
Exactly. And that,
of course, we were still buying for ourselves as well.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about being in a kind of a hobby business, right? And as a game designer, it's the same thing. Like I get to do the thing that I've loved. I dreamed of one day writing stuff for Dungeons and Dragons as a kid, right? And then I ended up doing it. I ended up helping make 5th edition, and stuff like that. And I still can't believe it, right? Because how many people's dreams of childhood get completed in that way,
Yeah, it's crazy.
And now I'm doing it full time, and it's fantastic. Yeah,
that's wonderful. Exactly. That you kind of get drawn in, and that's what happened with us. It just became a very simple, easy shift for us to go from the consumer to the manufacturer. And with the archive molds, because Neville Stockton, he was very good friends with Dave Hargrave, and a lot of his line had the Arduin miniatures. They had a whole series. So that, when we started doing that got us thinking at that point, we started getting into the miniatures, and we're like, well, wouldn't it be cool if we had a role play game, a game to go with all our miniatures? And of course, since in high school we've been using Arduin, we're like, I wonder what's happened to Arduin. We don't see it anymore. Wonder where it went. So Dave did some snooping, kind of did his thing, and he located Jim Mathis, who was still in California, who was the owner of Grimoire Games, who they were defunct at the point, but they still held the rights to Arduin. And after about 2-3 months of negotiations, Arduin became our property under Emperor's Choice. And that started the whole ball with us going forward with Emperor's Choice and Arduin. And, another thing I forgot, you talk about fate. We had to deal with Dragon Tree, had the rights of 4 through 9. And we had to go through a lawsuit with them.
Sort of.
Yeah, they sort of, but they didn't. So, and we challenged that in court and won. So we got the rights to Grimoires 4 through 9 consolidated, which were all Dave Hargrave who produced those 4 through 8, I should say. And so those rights came to us. They had the ability to produce, for so many years, as long as they paid us royalties, because Arduin at that point and still now is a trademark under Emperor's Choice, and the copyrights are all registered under us now. And eventually Dragon Tree went out of business, so they stopped paying royalties, and that cut out the agreement. So now it took us years, it took 20 years, but we've consolidated all the rights and the trademarks of Arduin under Emperor's Choice. But again, it took us money and time. Lawsuits are never cheap, very expensive, but we were able to persevere and win that and continue on. So that just led us, Pundit, to do more and more with Arduin. And again, in the early 2000 was a big year for us. We went to Gen Con and we went to the Gamma trade show. And at Gen Con that year, Gary Gygax, and we have pictures, we've put them online, and I have some pictures from our Kickstarter in 2024. Gary Gygax came to our booth and he talked with us for an hour, and he took pictures holding the Arduin map, holding Arduin miniatures. He even at that point, 3rd edition had just come out. He signed our player's handbooks for me and Dave with his, he signed everything. He was very friendly. We talked about things, and he said, how much, with Arduin back in the day with him and Dave. It was absolutely fascinating. And it was just a wonderful, imagine our experience, like, oh my God, it's Gary Gygax talking with us, posing with us. And we, it was such an honor, and we still have the pictures. I think we're one of the only companies, to be honest, that have Gary Gygax holding our product and smiling and showing off. I mean,
Yeah, and
pictures. I don't think anybody has Gary Gygax holding their product, like smiling and just having a blast with our stuff. And you have the Arduin side,
and that's so ironic, right? Because it's something that at the time Gary Gygax had massive issues with Arduin, right?
Exactly. He even hit it with the Viscasis Grimoire. I can't remember the name, but he took shots at Dave in the books. Yeah.
You know, we also met Jim Butler there. He was at our booth an awful long time, and he's the owner of Paizo, right?
Yeah, Jim Butler, who was with Watsy, became the owner of Paizo at that time. And
Jim took us out to dinner on Watsy's time. I remember.
Yeah,
nice.
That was great. And Dave, wasn't Greg Stafford also
Greg
there?
Stafford
we also
there.
talked to Greg Stafford, which a little
He
history.
had a couple sculptors from Games Workshop stuff.
Games Workshop, yeah.
Greg Stafford was somebody that I had regular correspondence with over the years. He was a great guy. He was fantastic, mostly because of our shared interest in like the kind of what I call the medieval authentic sort of style, right, that he had with Pendragon, where it's not based in fantasy, it's based on history, myth, and legend, and that was kind of an inspiration for me.
Yeah, no,
that's awesome.
That is awesome. He was great. And Greg Stafford, again, part of the history. Guess whose table he came from? He came from Dave Hargrave's table. That's who he used to game with. And Arduin was supposed to be the centerpiece of RuneQuest. And we can get into that when we talk about the history.
Oh, that is interesting.
Yeah, no, there's a lot there.
I was not aware of that.
Yeah, big thing. And that year, 2000, not only Gen Con with Gary Con, but that's when we went to the Gamma Trade Show and we did the TV commercial, like I said, with the cards and everything. So there was a lot there that we did. And we reproduced all the books. We finished off AG9. Dragon Tree had, Hargrave created 1 through 8, and he had a 9 in the works, which we finished off with a bunch of different authors. Mm-hmm. And then we reprinted the modules that he had, his 4 modules. So we did that. We were coming out just at the end, 2013. We had come out with Arduin Eternal, which was very crunchy, so it didn't do well. It was too much. I think people had enough of crunchy systems. Yeah. It was way overboard. So we kind of did that, which we've taken it off the market. One thing I'll say about the history, there was an Arduin 2, or what's called Complete Arduin. They came out with it. Dave Hargrave passed in 88. They came out with Complete Arduin. It was like 92. And Mark Scheinert finished it. Jim Mathis at Grimoire Games was the one who helped produce it. The problem is, Pundit, just when Complete Arduin 2 was coming out, guess what was taking off? Magic the Gathering was starting to really launch off in the early 90s. So it got decimated. So just to give you a little bit of the trajectory, and like I said, we came back 2021. Another fun note, talking about Gary Gygax, at Gary Con 2022, all the pictures we took with Gary Gygax at Gen Con 2000, Dave and I made 4 packets of all the pictures. And at Gary Con, Luke came over to the booth. We handed it to him for him, his sister, and his brothers, so they'd each have a packet of their father with us, all these pictures that they didn't have. And Luke was really nice with us. He posed with Dave and I, and Luke held up the same map that his father held up 22 years ago.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That's pretty cool. Yeah,
yes.
I got to grant you.
Yeah, so Luke Gygax did the same thing his father did with us 22 years later. So we thought that was really cool. And again, for us, for MCHO here, after that, we've been in development of Arduin Bloody Arduin, which Dave Hargrave, right before he passed, wanted to create his magnum opus of a system. He wanted to go back to the original grimoires and create his final system beyond Arduin 2, even at that point. And unfortunately, he never could. That is what we've been working on now for going on to almost 5 years that we've been in development, and we're hopefully going to be coming out with soon. And we want to finish his dream. And again, in the interim, 2024, we did the map Kickstarter for the Arduin maps. That's where you'll see the pictures of Gary and Luke holding the maps and everything. And then we did the Kickstarter for the Arduin Portal to Adventure last year that we did in combination with the other two companies. And that's helped to kind of drive Arduin more and more into the industry. And like you said, Pundit, being an old school property, what we get is a lot of people, we have fanatics who follow us, which is great. You have a core group. But then you have a second tier that they kind of know Arduin. They've heard about it. So it's like, I remember something about that. And then you have a third tier, which they have no clue what Arduin is. So we have a lot of potential. It's just right now, Arduin is not known enough and it's not cohesive enough to be its own thing. It's a great mine, gold mine of ideas, like unbelievable, still to this day. And again, we could talk about that with the history. But our goal is to get the Arduin Bloody Arduin out. We have more miniatures company and we're expanding with maps, a whole world in addition to a comprehensive rule system.
Well, it sounds to me, right, like that this is a kind of an ideal period for you guys to be putting Arduin at the forefront, because the nature of the OSR, I mean, when it started, it was just a creation of clones of the old D&D rules, because they had kind of gone out of print and it was very hard to get them. This was just before you started getting the big boom in online publishing, right? And so at that time, it was hard for people to find, good and inexpensive copies of these older books. And so they started doing that. Right. But from about 2008 onwards, the OSR evolved into becoming a design school of its own, which is based on doing everything within the box of old school mechanical style, but people doing all kinds of innovative stuff, right? And that's basically what Dave Hargrave did with Arduin back in the day, right? And so, and one of the qualities of the OSR, one of the things that's made it so successful to the point that now, Kickstarter products and DTRPG sales of OSR products even eclipse third-party D&D, official D&D, like D&D 5th edition products.
Right.
Is that because all of it is based on the core concept of the kind of landmarks of old school play, it means that any OSR product is essentially compatible with any other OSR product, right? So that means that somebody can get Arduin and they can end up using it with Lamentations of the Flame Princess. They can use it with Baptism of Fire. They can use it with any of the thousands now probably of OSR products, and mix and match everything, right? And I think most OSR gamers kind of do that, where they have different products from different publishers, from different authors, old school products that are like from the genuine old school period, newer stuff, and they mix it all together, right? So it's given the nature of what the Arduin books are, correct, it's like absolutely ideal for people to get it and to get to know it,
Absolutely.
And you see that, for example, with Barrows and Borderlands, which Matthew Tapp, he's a young guy, right? He's much younger than any of us. And he's doing this, and it's like the most old school thing you can imagine, right? Like Bears of Borderlands could totally have been published in the 70s, right? But it wasn't. It was published now, right?
Right.
But it's got that same, it's got the exact same feel, you know, that you get from stuff like Arduin, you know, which is this kind of experimental, really interesting kind of gonzo style. So that's I suspect that if you can, the more you get the word out, the more interest that there'll be, and it's remarkable how much of the stuff having now, you know, having gotten these books and looking at them for the first time in decades probably. It's incredible how much of it stands up, you know, and is still, you look at it and you go, yeah, this is awesome, you know, like this is totally usable.
Absolutely. You know, that like I said, if we go back to the beginning where Hargrave had back in the 70s and even earlier, you have concepts that even going today are still valid and people have used, and the influence in the industry, it's there from Arduin. It's just, again, Pundit, just not known. But when we, just so you know, when we've been in contact with Dave's family and his descendants and former players that we've been talking to, we've actually, one of our projects, we've been working with Griff to do interviews. We've been doing video interviews of former players and family, and we're kind of building a whole video series, almost a documentary about Dave Hargrave and Arduin. So that's been a whole side project for historical reasons. We want something that's going to last in the future, Pundit, that shows Arduin, shows Hargrave, so that he's not forgotten or what he did.
Yeah,
you know, Arduin isn't. And
it's really it's a lost treasure of old school play, right? Because it got pretty much quashed by TSR, right? Yeah. And so everybody kind of knows it. Like anybody who was around in the old days, or who, you know, looked back and started studying this stuff, knew about Arduin, but it's been dormant for a very long time, you know, and I think it's going to be something that'll appeal to a lot of old school gamers.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, it's when you look, and we've traced back to the beginning, and Hargrave, a lot of his experience, you know, he was in the mid 60s, was in the military, and he was in Germany, and he went over to Vietnam. He was a combat photographer, but he was part of the defense intelligence. So he worked with the intelligence agency in Vietnam as a combat photographer. So he went on certain places. He probably was in countries that they were not in, quote unquote. He did a lot of things. And we found out from the family, and there were some other family members that were in the military too. And they told us a lot of the video footage, if you see it from Vietnam, and a lot of the photos came from, you know, Uncle Dave, they said at that point, but it came from Dave Hargrave. And again, they didn't give credit to who did the videos or the pictures, but Hargrave, I guess, was in the middle of a lot of stuff from our understanding from the family and friends. So he had a lot of photographs and pictures and film from Vietnam that the Department of Defense used. And again, you see him on documentaries and so forth. He didn't even know that until we really dove deep. So a lot of the experience with Arduin and what he put into the books was forged from his experiences in Vietnam. He had a lot there, and I think his overseas experience allowed him to connect with certain gamers in Germany. So from our best that we could piece together, if you look at the material, that you look at those books, those 3 books there, Pundit, and he printed them, they were published in 1977, February 1977. There's no way that material was developed even a year before, 2 years. We believe he was having Arduin and was developing the game in the late 60s. Now, he was a war gamer, of course, too, but I think the concept of Arduin role play fantasy was already brewing and percolator and coming out, because you look at the amount of material that's there. It's like you must have been playing for years with all these concepts and ideas, and everything there is just incredible what he had there. So we're 99%.
Well, he does flat out say it in a lot of the intros that they were playing for years.
Yeah, that he was playing for years and years before Arduin was officially published. So there's a lot there. Dave Hargrave, again, from everything we've looked at, you had TSR in 74, and of course they came out, they had Boot Hill, Gamma World, Metamorphosis Alpha, Topsy. They had a bunch of different games here and there. Yeah. And then you had Ken San Andre with Tunnels and Trolls. Guess who was the third publisher? David A. Hargrave with Arduin was literally the third publisher to be out there. So you're talking about a property that was one of the primal beginnings. And when you talk about the influence, and I hope you don't mind, I know I'm talking a lot here.
No, go ahead.
He was the first with criticals, with fumbles. The critical and fumbles charts are infamous, and they were the first. Mana came from Dave Hargrave. The idea of a multiverse and gates and all this. Now, he was a big comic book, so I'm sure that influenced movies, the Marvel comics and all different types.
Yeah.
See, but he put the multiverse, he put the gates. One of his famous quotes was, "Take a troll to lunch," which was, you don't have to always play, your paladin or your knight. Try playing something different, expand your mind. And he was one of the first who said, it doesn't just have to be fantasy. If you want to put sci-fi in there, if you want to put horror, the Cthulhu element, go for it. He mixed genres. And again, there was concepts in there that we believe he was the first. Item cards and monster cards, Dave Hargrave was one of the first to do it. We can't find someone who did it before he did it, because he published them within a year that the first Arduin Grimoire came out. And again, there's so many things that he did that you could see people took in the industry and used. People just used it as a mine for ideas, the spells, the creatures, all the concepts that he put in there on how to play. And he gave you different versions. And those books, when we talk about that they're a mine, they're not really a cohesive system. The reason it's not a cohesive system is because Hargrave evolved. As he wrote and played his game, you'll find new concepts. Spells might be described one way, but by the second book, third book, they've changed or expanded or a new idea. Or he'll give you, well, here's a way to do mana. Here's a way to do hit points. Here's, all these different concepts, because he was evolving as he played in his game. And again, the reason I want to go into detail with it is because there's a lot when you say, where did this come from? To be honest, there's not much in the industry that surprised Dave and I, because so much came from Arduin. We're like, okay, that's great that you have Planescape, or you have Tri-Kreen Warriors in Dark Sun. Arduin had Franks 40 years ago. We had gates, and it's like, you're not hitting me with anything new. And it's, people come out with good stuff. Don't get me wrong, but where the source was, we believe a lot of that was Arduin. I will say this, third edition, like I said, Greg Stafford, he came from Dave Hargrave's table, and a manuscript went from Hargrave to Greg Stafford because Arduin was going to be the centerpiece for RuneQuest. But unfortunately, there was some issues there, and of course they had a falling out, so it didn't happen. So Greg went on his own, and Hargrave went on his own at that point. But from there, just to kind of accelerate it in the future, Jonathan Tweet, the lead designer for third edition D&D, called the Arduin Grimoire the coolest RPG book ever made. So guess what was a big influence to him was Arduin. and you could
Yeah.
see a little bit of the influence. Robert Heinzko, 4th edition D&D, big fan of Arduin. Monty Cook loves Arduin and does a lot with Arduin. And we know there's others that have been big fans. We've had other company presidents who've ordered Arduin books from us because they're big fans. And I mean, legit fans, Pundit, and have been influenced by the game. So I wanted to give a little bit of the history there. And again, Dave Hargrave kept evolving, came out with 4 through 9. He came out with Arduin 2, but again, he didn't finish it. He passed away in 88. He did come out with Arduin Adventure, which was like a basic set of rules. He did a basic set of rules, which was going to be kind of the first version of Arduin Bloody Arduin. But he did come out with that, then Complete Arduin. But this man was only in the industry for about 10 to 13 years, and the amount of material he produced was nuts. That's why there was so much he was doing. And to give you a little hint, and we've talked about this in other streams, we have over 100 unpublished Dave Hargrave dungeons in our archive. Wow. And we also have about 4,000 of his item and monster cards that were used in all his campaigns. And we have about 50 of the original character sheets from his campaigns. He ran 3 Arduin campaigns. And I want to talk to one other thing, Pundit, about Dave Hargrave, and it's to the point about Gonzo. Sometimes people, when they say Gonzo, they use it in a negative connotation. When I think about that term and what Arduin was, Arduin, yes, you could do what you want with Arduin, but it didn't mean around every corner there was a machine gun or a robot with lasers, or there was a TIE fighter, going to nail you down on the road. What that meant to us was Arduin was a system where Dave Hargrave would not say no, he would say, why not? Oh, you want to play the giant black orc? Sure, go for it. You want to play a Deodant or a Frank Warrior, which is an insect warrior? Why not? You want laser guns? Why not? The system could handle all different historical, sci-fi elements, fantasy elements without breaking down because he could run it. So I want to go to that point about Gonzo because I don't know if you run into this, but sometimes people give it a very negative connotation, and that's not right. It means your system can handle whatever you want to do. Hargrave's 3 campaigns, he ran a low-level magic, like a Conan, a very low-level magic. He ran a mid-level fantasy campaign, and then he ran a very high-level, all-inclusive campaign with sci-fi and horror. So he ran 3 major campaigns that we're aware of.
Yeah, well, I think, I mean, given that I've published my campaigns, I started a campaign of Dungeon Crawl Classics over 14 years ago. And it's probably the longest running DCC campaign of all time, right? Because it came out very shortly after it had started. We've been playing every 2 weeks for 14 and a bit years. And I made a book of the setting of that, which is the World of the Last Sun. And then I did the Gonzo Fantasy Companion, right? And I do get what you're talking about in that for some people, when they hear Gonzo, they think it's just like, oh, this is a world that makes no sense. That there's no coherence to it. Anything can happen. It's like Looney Tunes or something like that. Yeah. And unfortunately, there's even some people who make products that they call Gonzo, which are pretty much like that, right? Where there's like no concern about any kind of a coherence, right? And I think that's the biggest criticism some people make. But if you look at where Gonzo comes from, I mean, the term comes from Hunter S. Thompson, right? And Gonzo journalism. And Gonzo journalism is a type of literary genre where you are taking something that comes out of a real events and adding to it a magical realism, pretty much, right? Like it's the North America, it's the magical realism is a literary genre from South America, but Gonzo is its equivalent in English literature, right? Where there's a surrealism to the world, but the world is actually coherent, right? And there's a purpose behind that surrealism, So it is unfortunate. There's some people that don't quite get that, including people who make stuff that's Gonzo. But that's I mean to me that's the principle. Everything that in the world of a Gonzo setting has to have an explanation for what's going on, right? Why it is that way, right? And once you do that, it's a completely coherent world, right? It's as coherent as if you were playing in just strict medieval. If you're playing a campaign of the Crusades or something like that, right? It's just that the things that are real are different, but there's a reason that everything should exist. If you're running a Gonzo campaign, it shouldn't be that, oh well, now suddenly this happens for no reason. No, it happens. Maybe the players won't know what the reason is, but there's something in the world that means that it makes sense,
Correct. Because exactly, Bunny, because I think sometimes people think, oh my God, we have clowns with machine guns and flamethrowers. And it's like, what? They go completely bonkers. And it's like, that is not Gonzo. No. It is not. It's rooted in a reality. And a lot of the stuff you see in the Arduin grimoires, it came from a grim reality. Like I said, Hargrave's Vietnam experience, his worldly experience, it rooted into Arduin. So there was a foundational, base that it came from. So it wasn't pie just coming out of nowhere. There was a foundation of realism in Arduin that was a basis of everything. And like I said,
even the way he did like fireballs and things like that, there was a finite amount of damage that would fill an area. Correct. If you actually look at all his dungeons, his handwritten ones, he actually has ceiling heights on almost every area.
Correct.
And he would be able to calculate them on the fly.
Exactly.
So he would know volume at a moment's notice.
Correct. He did a lot where his dungeon design, there was a philosophy behind it, which was just brilliant. He had all these odd rooms. Nothing was perfect. Everything was very oddly shaped, different heights, different measurements. And he did that because you couldn't be precise with spells. You didn't know. You couldn't see the whole room or the layout. It caused a lot of confusion. He had a ton of traps in his dungeons. That was for a purpose too. Again, he always felt you got to get the thief character involved and he's got to be important. Each class had its purpose, and he made sure you needed a good, a diverse group in different classes and different abilities to handle the different problems in a dungeon environment. There were things in there where his design came out in there where you played the game a certain way. It was dangerous, but teamwork meant something. Specializing in certain things meant something, and it kept the players engaged with the game. And the uniqueness of the creatures and the spells and the threats kept the game fresh, where you didn't know what was going to be. It wasn't just, we're going to fight some giant rats, and some goblins. No, you all of a sudden turn the corner and you see a bunch of little kittens with their eyes going, oh my God, help me. And they turn out to be kill kittens. And different creatures that he did, which are actually real creatures in Arduin, but other real fantastic creatures that he made and put together. So it was a different philosophy in gaming and the way to game. And again, we heard stories how he played and how he would run, and it was fascinating, the things that we encountered.
I missed here a $5 super chat from Agile Monk. He says, yes, Dave's Vietnam experiences have had both good and bad impact on what he did. He was such a kind man despite some of what he suffered with.
Yeah.
And while we're at it, Agile Monk says, we should have our guests talk about the influence of Dave Hargrave on Dave Arneson and Richard Snyder Adventures in Fantasy RPG.
The Adventures in Fantasy RPG. I'd have to I'd have to take a look at that. I'm not 100% familiar.
Well, apparently that I guess that's something that Arneson did after Blackmore, and it was. I guess a lot of the material there was probably inspired by.
Correct. Correct. A lot of people don't realize, to that question that Agile Monk, and I see what Barron says here, even the Dungeon Master's Guide, I believe, was 79. The original first edition, I believe, was 79. You could already see some of the influence. Dave Hargrave had like a base hit point system, and they hinted to that in the DM's guide for D&D in 79.
Yeah. In my review video of Volume 1, I commented that I was blown away by how much stuff in Volume 1 ended up becoming part of AD&D, right? Like, there were entire, the barbarian classes, all this. There's tons of stuff. As much as Gygax was trying to kill Arduin because it was his competition, he was also clearly borrowing from him as well.
We heard from some people that were with TSR back in the day that they were a little bit concerned. They were concerned with Hargrave and what he was doing, because if he had the wherewithal of someone with the business savvy, they could have challenged TSR back in the day. And let me say this, Pundit, could you imagine if you had Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson and Dave Hargrave working together, what they could have done as a team? My God, what they could do.
More than that, right? Like today, the idea of like trying to sue someone else for doing an RPG that's similar to you seems kind of insane, right? Like unless you're talking about like outright, outright copyright infringement or something like that.
Yeah, we looked at that lawsuit between Gary and Dave, and basically it boiled down to prismatic walls. Spells for prismatic spheres, prismatic walls.
It's just crazy, because if they'd realized what, it took a long time to realize it, but the OSR has kind of demonstrated that if you have third-party products, and now even Wizards of the Coast eventually understood this, right? Which is why they encouraged, the D20 era, and now in 5th edition, the third-party 5e products. One company can't make all the stuff, and there's a bunch of stuff that you probably don't want to make as a company because it's a little bit too, how do you call it, innovative, right? Or too, or maybe too edgy or whatever, right? Yeah. But that people will be interested in anyway. And one of the big realizations that comes out of the OSR is that the more people write OSR books, the more popular all of it becomes, right? Because if someone's going to buy OSR game number 1 over here and they like it, they're going to start looking at other OSR games, right? They're going to start using and mixing, because as long as the compatibility exists, they're going to be able to do that. So I got another $5 super chat from Agile Monk. Thank you very much. He says it was 1979 to 81. Hargrave encouraged Arneson to take the risk on Adventures in Fantasy, Arneson's ideas and Snyder's organization.
Wow. Very interesting. That and again, I can see that because other designers have taken from Arduin and they used it as inspiration. And I noticed in the chat a couple people talking about, we can confirm, yes, a lot of Hargrave's dungeons had basically tunnels. In his dungeon, he has basically like the tunnels that were in Vietnam. He has them built into a lot of the dungeons, and he has all types of stuff, where secret doors are not just secret doors. They could be murder holes. They could be secret compartments. Just the concepts are mind-blowing that he has. I guess
firsthand experience, huh?
Yeah, no, exactly. So no, John Mike, you're right. And anybody else who said that, yes, his dungeons prove it, that he was in that mindset. And again, a lot of people took inspiration from what Dave Hargrave did. And some of the things that he did do also, from our understanding, with these dungeons, because it's such an immense amount of material that he produced that never got out published or out to the public. Our understanding is for a release, Dave Hargrave would take graph paper, he would sit down, and he would just go. And the ideas would just flow out of his head. He would draw the dungeon. He'd write everything in the rooms, the monsters, the description, this and that. It's amazing, Pundit, how much material that you look on these things, and nothing's crossed out. That's what's amazing. We have some notebooks filled with his writing, and there's nothing that's like cross that out. No, correct this. None of that. It's just,
if you do have a dungeon that has something crossed out, it's because it was transformed.
correct.
And he crossed off what was originally written there, and then would write like destroyed by this group or destroyed, and this is now what's here.
Correct.
Actual play.
Yeah. So it's amazing when you see that. And again, I can't say it enough about the influence that he had with the industry and the concepts and a lot of the things. Just as a side note, with Greg Stafford, they eventually kind of became friends again. They kind of settled things. He did write some stuff for Cthulhu. He wrote one of the I don't know how to say it. One of the most horrific adventures called Dark Carnival, which very mature, violent type of adventure for Cthulhu. Mm-hmm. It's called Dark Carnival that he wrote for Cthulhu. So Hargrave did put his, dipped his toe into a couple of the Cthulhu and horror genre with Chaosium. He did write a couple modules for them. One of the other concepts I want to say that Hargrave, we just recently discovered this. Before he came out with Complete Arduin, before that was completed in early 92, there was a primer in 1984 for some of the new things that were coming out with the new Arduin. And this is what we discovered, Pundit. Dave Hargrave, if you look at his armor class conversion, in Arduin, the AC is similar to D&D, except he used like a 2+2 or 2+4. He did have 9, 8, 7, 6. But if you notice on these, when the old conversion, when you go to the new, the number goes up and it's a buildup. What we realized, and he probably didn't even realize it back then, ascending armor class. Yeah. And that was 1984 that this booklet was produced. And it was the predecessor, his primer for the complete Arduin, for the next version of Arduin coming out. But again, unfortunately, he passed away a couple years.
But they were definitely playing it way before that. I mean, that's evidenced on all of the item cards, or a lot of the item cards, because he would convert them over to his Battle Factor system, which was pseudo-introduced when he came out with Arduin Grimoire 4. And that was the first evolution, and that's around the time of the primer, too.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. And again, we really believe that, Pundit, what Dave is saying and what I said earlier, that we really believe he was playing late 60s. Had to be. Late 60s, early 70s.
Wargaming, yeah.
He was doing wargaming, but we believe, because the family has talked to us, that Dave Hargrave, where he was in California, there was a Mensa group, which were like the high Q individuals at the college there, and I think Southern California University. And his family, his descendants, told us they remember how Dave would tell them how everybody, the game, his Arduin, his Arduin game, they were fascinated. The Mensa group that he was running for were fascinated by this game, and it like intrigued them. It kind of stimulated them. They loved it. So we haven't pinpointed it yet, but there's a high probability he was running an Arduin game for the Mensa group
That's very interesting.
Yeah, yes, which we're trying to get a definite, but that would target Hargrave right at about 69, 70 with Arduin,
Yeah.
or the preliminary beginnings of the game.
So RPG Grandma says, oh yeah, and there are classes for all sorts of professions. Yeah. And I just posted just the day before my review of Volume 2 as a kind of sneak teaser of this live stream, right? And I don't remember if I ever actually read Volume 2 before now, right? I know I read a couple of them. I think it might have been 1 and 3 or something like that, but long time ago, and I'd forgotten most of what was in it, right? But I was really amazed that see, I've got my own best-selling Baptism of Fire RPG, which is a medieval authentic game set in at the birth of the Polish state in Europe, and it's basically like it's medieval, but taking the worldview of the medieval people at the time, right? So there is magic, there are monsters, but it's all coming out of actual historical legends and myths and what people believed at the time, right? And of course, one of the big themes in the game is this conflict between the Slavic Christians and the Slavic pagans, right? Where Christianity was the new religion there, and so one of the character classes I have in there is the holy man. Right, so there isn't a cleric class. There's holy warriors, which is one class, and there's holy men, which is basically like a Christian saint, right?
Right.
And Hargrave, I thought I hadn't. I mean, I know there were a couple of other games that had something kind of similar, but Hargrave beat me by decades here, right? He has a saint class, right? And I was just so surprised at that, and I know that I don't think I ever read this book, so I don't think that that it was like a spark of memory or something like that. But it's so interesting that he had the inspiration for that kind of thing so long ago compared to what I did. Right? There's nothing new under the sun, you know.
Yeah,
I thought I was so clever, and no, it doesn't. Turns out it was there all along. You know,
we found things. I'll tell you what, Pundit. When developing ABA, and there's a lot of decisions we had to make of what to bring forward, what to leave behind, what to change. We found nuggets and things in the books that we missed, and we realized, oh my God, look what he was hitting on and doing. And we could see it in other games or other things or the concepts. Like, wow, this is brilliant. Why didn't we see this, before? Or someone had come up with something, and then we go back, like the Ascending Armor class. We're like, wait a minute. Oh my God, he was going down that trajectory in '84. Way before that became a thing in the early 2000s. So it is amazing when you look at stuff like that. And there is more of a connection to the Arduin than people realize. One of the things we like to talk about is Earl Otis. Guess where he got his start in the industry doing artwork? The book you have right there, the AG1, there's 2 versions. The first version, the original, is all Earl Otis artwork that were in the books. So this is original Earl Otis, the original Arduin grimoire. Yeah. And I want to read you something because we love to read this. This is a quote from Dave Hargrave in his foreword. He says, "The artwork contained in this book is the sole effort of a very talented young man named Earl Otis. 10 years hence, I'll be proud to say, quote, I knew him when, ... end of quote." So
that's remarkable.
Yep, it is remarkable. The history, and again, when we talk the influence, Michio Okamura was also an artist, a big-time artist in complete Arduin. He was in a little bit of the later books, but then also big-time in complete Arduin. he was one of the lead graphic designers for Diablo, the original computer game.
Mhm.
And in the instruction manual for Diablo, they have a thank you to Dave Hargrave in the credits in the back.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
So I've got a question for the
Sure.
two of you here. So the Arduin has a lot of material in it.
Yes.
Can you guys tell me what is your favorite feature of out of any of the Arduin books? What's the thing that you like the best out of it?
Dave, do you have something, Dave? I
think I'd have to harken back to maybe Dirty Dorgs or the Multiversal Trading Company. They just opened your eyes up to humongous charts of stuff that you just didn't possibly think of, or menu items that you just didn't envision to be into a game. Dirty Dorgs being an establishment you could order certain menu items from, and Multiversal Trading Company being where he kind of took all his game cards, and the players would create game cards, and they were all one-offs. So the only way to get an item out of Multiversal Trading Company was it had to have been traded into the company in some other game. And that's how they ended up with 4,000 item cards. And those are just the ones we have. I have no idea how many more are out there.
And I wanted, to Dave's point, and I have a couple things myself, Pundit, but when Dave talks about Dirty Dorgs, and that's described in AG4, and basically Dirty Dorgs is basically it's a part of the underground city from Talismand, which is the capital city in Arduin, and there's a large underground city way underground, and basically Dirty Dorgs is the hellhole of the multiverse, and there anything and everything can talk to each other, or people make deals. And to give you an idea, when Dave said about meals, here's one of the random meals, and there's pages of these. It's called the Orc Greed Feast. It's 24,500 gold for this feast. 24 plump hobbit's toes in a simmering black stew of squeezed elf juices, served with a heaping pile of 7 smoking Amazonian ribs. A frosted glass of white warg vodka tops it all. So you just imagine that imagery and how it evokes such a place. Now, again, that's quite an evil place, but that's the imaginative.
And not necessarily a practical thing, but something that shows you a gateway to everything else that's out there that he wrote.
Correct. And
an eye-opening experience, let's say.
And I know
what in world design is called inherent setting, right? Like,
yeah. Correct. And another thing I wanted to touch on, because I think you touched on it in your video for Welcome to Skull Tower #2, that when Dave talks about the Multiversal Trading Company, you have a company that basically has outlets on all these worlds, and they trade. So that's where, if you have the money, you could actually get your hands on a laser gun, because they might supply it. And to that effect, you had talked about the inns of Arduin. I know you showed it on your video.
Yeah, I thought that was great.
Yeah, Hargrave came up with a whole rating system, which is great.
Yeah.
1 to
it was like a Michelin guide to taverns.
Exactly. So that's all Hargrave, that he came up with these concepts that back in the day when we looked at it, like, oh, that's super cool. Those are real cool concepts. And what I would like to say, what I have found myself with Arduin, I think 2 major things. And mine, Dave's are more the flavor, which is awesome. My 2 things are more the system rules aspect. There's 2 things. The mana point system for spells. I love that. I think it's a brilliant system to have to use for spells. There's so many advantages to it. If done right, is great. And the second thing I take away from Dave Hargrave is his base hit point system. In Arduin, you have so many base hit points based on your race and class, and then that's it. Whatever hit points you have at first level, that's your hit points. And I think that's a beautiful system. It might go up a little bit, but very little. And I love that because it made us play the game so much different than what you would play other games.
That's true.
Yeah. So those are the two big things I took. Well, the flavor and all the beautiful stuff, don't get me wrong, was great. But I loved those couple of mechanical things because when I would play a mage, it would be so different with the mana, and the hit point thing was just such a beautiful thing to have in the game.
Yeah.
Because it had a lot of bonus side effects for the game, for us. One of the big things which, we're doing, you can have people at multiple levels, different levels, play together because your hit points stay kind of the static.
Close,
yeah, which allows you.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that I think the OSR has built upon is this idea that it's contrary to like the official D&D. It's more interesting to have a game where there's a greater proportionate risk of mortality than what you get nowadays, especially nowadays from 5th and 5.5 and stuff like that. These editions where it's almost impossible to get yourself killed, as a character.
Yeah, exactly.
And so there's lots of different ways to handle that, right? Critical hits are one of the really significant ways to do it. Like in any of my OSR games, you do get hit points as you go along, not as much as in modern day D&D, but the thing is that a lucky critical, you could be a 15th level warrior, and a peasant with a pointed stick gets a good critical hit on you, you might die, right? And that can happen, right? And so there's always that skin in the game that you otherwise don't have, because if you're in anything from 3rd edition and up, if you're a 15th level guy, there's no 0 level peasant that matters. There's really no risk there.
Correct. And I think that's where the critical and fumbles come into play. They balance, and you combine that with all the other elements. It really keeps things in check where you never get out of hand in the game. It's actually one of the reasons why you need in Arduin, there was a lot of cool magic items because you needed them to survive. Because without certain things, and again, the philosophy that he did, Pundit, you'll see that in the later books too. And we'll coordinate with you to get you the material, some of the books and everything, so you can see everything. He had articles where he talks about, how to deal with angry players, how to deal with someone who's, gets out of hand or super powered in the game, how to deal, like I said, take a troll to lunch, how you can mix different things in, how do I play the game if I'm going to mix, high fantasy with sci-fi with horror. A lot of his articles are still kind of good for today. He talks about alignment in some articles too. So you have the wisdom of the past that can come into play even now, Pundit. Sure, a couple things, have they been passed? Sure. But to tell you the truth, those books from almost 50 years ago, they still hold true, and they still have secrets in them that are still viable for today, which is beautiful. Well, we may be a little biased, but we believe they're the best.
Well,
have you guys ever run into people who are critical of Arduin or who are critical of your work?
Oh yeah. And Pundit,
what kind? I'm curious to know what kind of criticisms would they give.
Well, they hit Arduin with, it's just a bunch of ideas and it's all out of whack and it doesn't make, mostly these comments come from people who haven't read the books or understand, have gone through them and get the concepts. They just think it's a bunch of Monty Hall type of stuff thrown in there. It's just, they think it's just, you get millions of gold pieces and you get artifacts.
Well, and some of that comes right out of, Gary Gygax's criticisms of it, like it was, I love, you look at some of these old pieces that he wrote where he was saying, well, you can't use these third-party products because they're unbalanced, right? As if AD&D was balanced, right? And it wasn't, it's just nonsense.
So we get a lot of that, Well,
and that's all on the game master and the game players too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that determines a lot. And when I say we get a lot of that, if from the very few people that we hear that. It's not a lot, so don't get me wrong. The noise is very little that we hear about that. And of course, we probably took a little bit of flack for Arduin Eternal. Like I said, it was too crunchy. It went way overboard. So we get a little bit for that. But we understand our mistake. That's why we're going back to what Hargrave wanted to do, more of an original system. So we took that out. We actually, what's interesting, Pundit, we took money out of our pocket because we had Complete Arduin and Arduin Eternal was on Amazon. We had it out there. We pulled them both. And we did that because when we come out with Arduin Bloody Arduin, we want to have one cohesive system. We don't want to have edition wars, which we're really not going to have because there's so very few people that would be playing those. But we want to have a comprehensive system. But we're always, and we could talk about this like what we're doing now with the new box set, we're always going to keep the old material available. So if you want the books you have there, if you want to mine it and use it for your OSR game, please feel free. We're going to keep those books available for the people who want to do that. But we're going to come out with a cohesive system very shortly in the future where if you want to play Arduin, here you go. Now you can play Arduin.
Can you tell us a little bit about what that system is going to entail?
Sure. I'll go over a little bit. For one, some of the designs that we have with it, it's going to have your 6 stats, but in Arduin, they're a little bit different. They're called factors. So you have a strength factor, a health factor, which akin to constitution. You have a coordination factor, which is like dexterity, a reasoning factor, which is like intelligence, an ego factor, which is like willpower. It has your willpower, a little bit of wisdom in there, and then influence factor, which is like charisma. We boiled it down because Arduin had abilities and then they had like characteristics, which were a combination of abilities, and you divide. We wanted to go down to the base 6 stats. Why? Because now you're compatible with every other OSR. You know what?
That's very important.
You know what? People don't realize that with Design Pundit, and I know I'm saying this out loud. If your stats are exact and compatible, you can make everything else work. Because now you can translate. So we're going to keep that so people can translate. And coordination factor used to be dexterity and agility in Arduin because he split manual hand dexterity and then movement. Yeah. We decided to combine it for simplicity and, again, to be able to convert. The other thing, we are using a D20 for combat, so you will have crits and fumbles. And, again, we have some little other things with that, but you have crits and fumbles on a D20. Armor class, now this was a big one. Armor class is the same as armor class in D&D or any OSR game. We looked at different permutations, armor absorption, this, that. We came to the conclusion to keep it simple, keep the administrative work, just keep it simple. It works. Yes, there's certain flaws to AC sometimes, but generally 99% of the time it works. And this was the decision we made on this, Pundit. And I know some people are going to be like, we decided to go with ascending armor class. So you have a 15 or you have...
That's one of the most silly debates in the OSR because ascending and descending armor class work the same. It's just, it depends on what you're either going up or down,
yeah.
but it doesn't make any particular difference to how the game ends up being.
I know, and I have to say it that way because Arduin's always had the descending, and we decided ascending because it just seems simpler. You don't need a chart.
And it's the standard for OSR, right? Like there are some OSR games that use descending, but
correct.
Most of them use
and even for modern gaming, for the most part, D&D, so to speak.
Yeah, of course. It also makes it easier for people who are coming from like modern editions. Yes.
Exactly. So that was one of the design decisions. We decided we're going to keep that. Mm-hmm. Of course, we're using mana. It's a mana point spell system. We are also, using Hargrave's initiative system for CF counts, how the way he did initiative, which is kind of a segmented, initiative system based on your coordination factor. Mm-hmm. So you could get multiple actions in a melee round, but it's not like D&D. Like I said, I don't want to go too far deep into it, but it's quick. You get your action, your movement, and you move on. Boom, boom, boom. We've gone through it. We've play tested it. It's great. Again, it's a Hargrave original, and it is what Arduin is. A lot of these things I'm talking about, Pundit, we did not want to lose Arduin, so we refused to sterilize or just completely get rid of things. There's certain core elements that have to be Arduin: mana, the hit points, the stats, the way the CF count, how he does his combat. We want to keep in there. We left behind a couple things. I will say this. He did have a huge chart that had the weapon versus armor class, like +1, -2. He had that. We dropped that. We were like, we get it, but there are problems with that too. So we're like, we're going to leave that behind. His weapon damage, believe it or not, he had 12 columns, like for a dagger against a under 1 hit die, or 2 to 3 or 4 to 5 or 6 to, he went out 12 columns, Pundit. So we're like, you know what? Sorry. A broadsword in our game is going to do a D6 +1, 2 to 7. I'll put that out there. So it's a standard. We're not even doing large creature. It's a standard damage for that weapon. And we felt
that's sensible.
Yeah, it's just a sensible design.
Yeah. In most of my games, I classify weapons by size, right? So you've got, medium type weapons like a long sword. They do a D8, but so does a battle axe. So does a large mace. Smaller weapons, short swords, D6. Tiny weapons like daggers, a D4, etc. Right? That makes it a lot easier.
It's a lot easier. And again, Pundit, if you're playing any other flavor of a game, you're playing your games, Labyrinth Lore, Sword and Wizardry, Dragon Slayer, I could go on and on, Hyperborea. Guess what? You can convert. It's so easy.
It is. It's very easy to convert it. Yeah. Because you can just grab another book and use that set of damage tables instead if you want. Yeah.
Exactly. And I can say this: we've gotten through spells and recipes and so forth. So we have hundreds. Spells. I think we topped over 300 recipes. We have over 100 classes. Right now we have 20 classes in the game. So we went through, and a lot of Dave Hargrave's classes, if they were close, we kind of combined them. So we kind of went through a whole system of combining classes, making classes that made sense, that weren't duplications of each other. I will tell you this: half our classes can use spells, the other half cannot. So there's no thief with freaking spells. That drives me crazy. I don't understand that. I just am not into that. You know what? If you're a warrior, you don't use spells. Sorry, you fight.
Yeah. Niche protection is important in character classes.
Yeah. In our game, you'll find it's about your class and what they do well, and you've got to work as a team. There's no lone wolf, McQuaid that's going to, the lone hero is going to take out everything. That doesn't work. You need a team, to get things accomplished. You need the 4 food groups, like our buddy Shadow tells us. You need the warrior type, the mage type, the priest type, the thief type. give or take. You need your nice combination that complement each other with their abilities. So that's part of the design we have. But again, it harkens back to Arduin. Yes, of course, we're going to put lasers, guns. We're going to give you stuff on how to deal with techno, because the techno class is a big one, which, yes, it's going to be in the game, So, and the races, which we call races, are 27. And a lot of them, the elf, the high elf, you have Deodance, you have Fraint, which are the insect war. You have Saurigs, which are like the lizardmen, swamp and desert. You have a lot of different races in the game, which is Arduin. So those are also in there too. So a lot of the core concepts of Arduin are going to be in there. So,
and do you have a timeline of when this is going to be coming out?
We are hoping right now that we have a release date. Where are we? 27. We're hoping. Let me just say 2027, 2028. That's what we're looking at. We're getting close.
That's a good range,
Yeah, I had to be really kind of willy with that a little bit, but we're moving forward at a good pace. We're doing testing. We're running simulations. We're doing the things we're supposed to do, Pundit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know from experience. I'm an unusual game designer in that I'm not a self-publisher, right? I get other people to publish for me, and I've learned the hard way that whatever it is that is the original time, like if you say, oh, it'll be out by March, and it's never going to be out by March. There's always something that delays it.
Yeah, exactly. And when we go to do this, of course, more than likely, of course, it'll be a Kickstarter, but we have a lot of planning and manufacturing to do, because like we talked early in the show, we want to have this 100% done, 100% written, laid out artwork. And we have stockpiles of artwork that we've been doing over the last 5 years. So that's not an issue either. But before we get to the Kickstarter, everything has to actually, we're hoping to be into the production phase and already at the manufacturer. And it's like, okay, we're going.
Well, I'd like to take a tiny commercial break here.
Oh, sorry.
By way of letting everybody know that the latest reissue of the Pundit files on DriveThruRPG is now out at the Luxuni gaming site. It is issue number 14, which is the Medieval Authentic City Guide to Poznan, which is in the setting of Baptism of Fire. It's one of the major cities at the time period, and that is issue number 14. I said, yeah. So this is a complete city guide to the city of Poznan as it was in the 11th century, detailed with the different areas of the city and all kinds of interesting material. So you can use it. I mean, you can definitely use it in Baptism of Fire, but you can also, it's also very compatible with any other OSR product if you want to have a city that has a very realistic medieval sort of style. But when I say realistic, I mean part of the details of the city in the 11th century is that there's a magical forest just outside the city, or not just outside, but very close to the city, that is also included in the setting. And this is like, because they thought that was a real magical forest, and so it's not like it's just harsh realism or something like that. It's medieval authentic fantasy is what it is. And I'm just going to post it on the chat here that you can. There's the link to where you can get it. And of course, the other 13 issues that have been reissued so far are there for you to check out too. Each one has a different topic. So be sure to check out the Luxuni gaming site for If you missed it the first time, here it is again. The Pundit files, the original, not publisher, the original store that I was putting it on was forced to cease production because it was based in Portugal, and the Portuguese decided to impose certain taxes that made it unviable. So now I've taken it back to Drive Through RPG, and they're being reissued every couple of weeks. That's a new issue until we get all 50 of them. I think there were 50 Pundit Files issues. So check that one out. It's available, and all the other ones are available for just $4.50 on PDF. And you're bound, if you're not interested in the city guide, you're going to find other stuff there that you're going to find very interesting. All right, so that's my little commercial break for the day.
We appreciate it, Pundit. Sorry, I know we can keep talking and talking. So
no, that's fine. That's fine. So, are you guys now basically dedicated to doing Arduin stuff, or do you have plans for other things that are not Arduin?
We do, like I said, we do have the miniatures where we are expanding the miniature line. We do have new sculpts coming in. So, and ours are, of course, pewter miniatures, full metal miniatures. We are expanding. We have some new miniatures we've introduced, and we have more on deck coming up. A lot of them are Arduin specific monsters, but we're also expanding the character races. We're trying to get all the character races for Arduin out there, obviously, before we do the launch of the new system. So we have new miniatures. Dave has been working on more maps. So we have more maps of countries and so forth that have been pretty much completed that we're looking to roll out. Also, that we're doing too. I'd say it's hard to say if we're going to do more. We've talked before about doing maybe some war games, but we're not positive if we can divert enough to do that. We've talked about it in back, but it's so hard to keep going with what we have.
We have one written from years ago, but
yeah, I don't know if we
want to tweak it, and I don't think we want to touch it until after Arduin has gotten its attention and its due.
Correct.
And people can get your miniatures and the Arduin stuff through your website. Is that correct?
Yes.
So I'm going to post the website here in case anybody is not aware of it. There you go. So that way they'll have it. And these I always make sure to tick the little box that means that there'll be a replay of the comments, so people will see it even if they're watching this after the live stream ends.
Yeah, that's perfect, because we're just to let you know, Pundit, right now when we talk about what's happening currently, and these are plans that are in the works right now for Arduin Bloody Arduin, the miniatures, the maps, and everything we're doing. Right now, we just launched a major sale of a new box set for Arduin that we're doing called the Harbinger edition of the box set, which is similar, that we just launched, and it's on our website. We're doing a special where you get the box set and then you get a card pack for free and a card set.
Yeah, I got it.
Dave, if you don't mind.
Oh, there you go. Nice looking box.
Yep. It's even got the little cutouts to lift there, and it's got all the books, the original trilogies and books. And it's a very nice box. It's one of the few prototypes that we got, or pre-production samples.
No, this is out of the full production.
Yeah. And
looks good.
Yeah, we had some artwork where they did a picture of Dave Hargrave there with his different characters from the game.
It was Thomas, wasn't it?
Yep, Thomas did the artwork for that. And it comes with dice. It's a nice box set. These are two of the original Dave Hargrave cards, RPG Pundit, and we wanted to put them in with the original artwork And what we decided to do, we didn't change anything. If you notice, you have Dave A. Hargrave, Origins, 1981, with his signature. And we asked people, and they said they love it, that it's as is. And these are examples of the item cards that we have that he used for his game.
Wow.
And again, we made sure to get the ones that actually had his signature and the date. And we were torn with that, Pundit, because we're like, do we reformat it? And we're like, no, we're going to go raw. And whatever he wrote, that's what you get.
I think that's a good call. Yeah.
You know, it's authentic. We took
there's so many cards, and
we took the critical charts and we did half sheets of paper on a card stock, and we put an Earl Otis artwork, and now you've got a handy sheet that have the critical hits chart on it that a GM can use right there. That comes in the box set. And then we have like 4 character sheets. They're half and half character sheets where you have the rest of the back in there. And then it comes with the 4 volumes, which, you know, there's the Earl Otis artwork, the volume 1. And we also will give you, I think, the version that you have there, Pundit, the Greg Espinoza version.
Yeah.
These are bigger books, those. The ones you have are the half sheets. These are 6x9. They're a little bit bigger.
Bit taller, yeah.
So we kind of cleaned it up, repaged, number everything. And then we got the original version that you have there.
Yeah.
You know.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's we did a whole box set, and this will be the final version of what the Arduin books will be for the future. We're not going to do any more reformatting or come out with it. You know, this is for people in the future who want to get a box set, who want to get the original Arduin. This is what you're going to get, which we went through. We added some new stuff. That's book. There's Shadra, Shadra the castrator. We added page numbers on the bottom. You know, we cleaned it up. We increased the size. And then in the back, Dave, don't you have the picture of Dave Hargrave? There's the original map that Dave Hargrave drew at the beginning. We put that in the book. And then we put a picture of Dave A. Hargrave on there. So we put some extras in the books.
Yeah. All right. Well, for the audience, if you guys have any questions for the guests, or I guess to me, this would be a good moment to do it before because we're starting to wind down here. I think we're at the 2-hour mark.
Yeah, no, we're right.
So if you've got any questions about Arduin or anything else, this is the moment to take your opportunity and ask. Also, as I pointed out, right now, while we're live, this isn't being monetized. So if any of you are interested in donating to the Domino Cat Food Fund, feel free to send me a super chat. Monkey says, "What is the setting?" Okay, that's a complicated question, but
Arduin is a country that's on the continent of Kaz, so there is a whole world setting for Arduin. We do have. This is the best way to say it. Again, it's a whole high fantasy. We have what's called the World Book of Kaz, Legendary Lands of Arduin. This is an 800-page monstrosity, but it's system neutral. There's no stats in here. And this is basically the world that Arduin lives on in Kaz, 7 continents, and you've got all these countries that are detailed out, and we got the maps to go with it. And the best way to describe it, it's a high fantasy environment, but high fantasy, I'd just say, because you potentially could have that, but it can be run as a low level or a very high sci-fi, mix of horror, sci-fi, and fantasy. But the setting, Arduin is a country on the continent of Kaz, which is the most populated. There's about 72 other countries on the continent, and then there's 6 other continents on the world of gods, and all the information is in our world book. I hope that helped to answer the question about the setting. But the Arduin was built with that setting, so the system comes out of the world that Hargrave built.
So D&D Dad and Son says, burning question, what is the favorite thing you are doing for this project? You know that puns are the lowest form of humor, D&D Dad and Son. But
I was trying to type an answer there, but
yeah. I don't know if this is my favorite thing, but developing ABA has been fun. It's been a ton of work, lots of headaches, lots of redesign, back to the drawing board, trying to figure out to make things work. But in the end, when you see the finished product or where you come to and you're like, this feels good, that's my favorite thing. I don't know for you, Pundit, when you write something, you develop something, and you come to that point where you're like, yes, you can feel it. It feels good. I mean, it's a pain, a ton of work to get there, but when you finally get there, you're like, I feel good about it.
Yeah, or the moment it all starts coming together,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So
for me, I would say it would be the look on people's faces that they finally get to look at some of these maps that Hargrave somehow churned out by the hundreds.
Yeah.
The overland maps, not by the hundreds, but by the sheer detail, and the dungeons by the hundreds. And they're incredible. We're remastering them as fast as we can, and there's a lot done, and it will be great to see people finally get to see them.
Yeah.
Because I know, having read the books in the past, many a time, I've always wanted to see the maps. And I never even believed necessarily that they existed, but they do exist.
Well, we got Baron Karza says, George and Dave, what are 2 non-Arduin RPGs you love, and what's your favorite type of taco?
Oh my God!
I like Boot Hill and Rollmaster personally, but I got to say the new Planet of the Apes books are really pretty nice. Although I think they a little overdid it on the interior with the coloring.
Yeah.
But,
I'll have to jump on the Rollmaster thing, and this harkens back, Pundit, when we used to play Arduin. Not only did we do it with D&D, we used to play Arduin with Rollmaster, and it was fast. So yeah, I would say Rollmaster, and I gotta also say for myself, Boot Hill was always a cool one too. So
we got a $5 super chat from Bo Paints Minis. Thank you so much. He says, for Arduin, Bloody Arduin, and for Domino's Kibble Fund, spread the word, share the video, and buy some Arduin books and minis. Thank you for that super chat. I appreciate it.
Hey, Dave, do you want to do another, what do you call it?
Rick Carson says, I don't see a link for buying Arduin as well. I was just looking at the empcho.com site.
I just sent it to you.
If you go to shop, there's stuff for minis there, isn't there?
Yes.
There is. I also just sent it to you in the private chat.
Oh, okay, there we go.
Yeah.
So yeah, you just have to go to the site and look around a bit, and you'll find it. It's in the section that says shop, I think.
Yep, you go to shop at the top, and right down is Miniatures Fantasy. And you can click on anything. You don't have to take it to the end of the menus. The menus just refine it.
All right. Any other questions for our guests?
Awesome.
If not, I guess we're going to start wrapping up with the final question. So this question is a kind of a contest that we have here that up until now, very early on, one of the first people I interviewed was Driving and Dragons, who is a YouTuber that is quite outspoken about RPGs, but and he's been the champion of this contest ever since. So the context of this question is that, see, I love RPGs. I play RPGs like crazy, right? And tabletop RPGs. But other than that, I don't really do any of the standard nerd stuff, right? I don't play video games. I don't read comic books anymore. I did as a kid, obviously, but not now. I don't read fantasy novels. I don't I don't collect Funko Pops. I don't collect miniatures. Sorry, guys. I do theater of the mind. I don't play any trading card games or weird German board games or anything like that, And so like there's nothing really that I mean I do other stuff that is, that you could say are other kind of unusual things to do. I'm a historian and all that, so I read a lot of weird history stuff. But and I might watch Marvel movies or something like that, but that doesn't really count anymore because it's not a nerd thing. Everybody watches Marvel movies, right?
Yeah.
So I have basically no directly nerdy pursuits, as in the classic nerd sort of stuff, right? Because nowadays some people might say, "Oh, well, I paint and that's nerd." No, that's not a nerd pursuit. That's just somebody having a different type of hobby. But the only thing I do is RPGs, right? So I've been asking every one of my guests at the end of the show, how nerdy are you, right? Like, what do you do that's nerdy other than RPGs? And Driving and Dragons keeps winning because he, like myself, the only thing he does is play RPGs. And on top of that, he fixes and builds cars, right? Which is kind of an anti-nerd sort of thing, right? It's a jock sort of thing. So far he's been the undefeated champion for ages. I'm surprised he's not on here tonight because usually every time we have it, he must be busy building a car or something. Because usually every time we have an episode, he shows up to defend his title. But how nerdy are you guys?
Oh my God!
You go ahead there.
I was gonna say I would say we pretty are because other than the business which consumes us, I mean, the business is a business for us. Development, we constantly working on things, casting, producing, figuring what's the next thing. I mean, for us, we try to hit some movies. I guess isn't too nerdy of a thing. We do play war games when we can fit them in. We do like to have a war game here or there. But sometimes we like to have the mindless fun in that, Pundit. Like there's a game called Nuclear War. We love it. It's quick.
Yeah, I love Nuclear War.
War. So war games, some kind of craft board games, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Correct.
I seem to have become a repository for some of the absolute most complicated war games ever made.
Well, at least that's better than like Settlers of Catan or something.
5 being extremely complicated. Most of them are like 4.6. 100-page rule books, of dense, packed, tight.
Correct.
I'd say one other thing that George didn't touch on is we seem to become a repository also of either estates that were associated in the past with gaming or miniature companies. So, for instance, Dave Hargrave's legacy of Arduin and other stuff that he has accomplished. I would also state we did buy the Archive miniature line, sold it. We did buy 2 of the lines from Grenadier Miniatures, sold it. We are in discussions with another company right now to possibly acquire other miniatures, but I think we might turn them down. I don't know right now. I'm on the hot seat to get back to them. Yeah. And then we also have the repository of another estate that is just loads and loads of books and games and RPGs that I don't even know what to do with at this point. So it seems to be a repository for a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So lightning round here. Do either of
Lightning
you guys
round.
play collectible card games?
I have not. Not
No.
really.
No. Do
Nope.
either of you watch anime?
Nope.
No.
Do either of you engage in cosplay activities or SCA or anything like that?
No.
No.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm just checking, right?
Yeah.
It sounds like you guys are near to the top there. You know, you're doing quite well by the standards of a lot of my guests. You know, some of you will like say yes to absolutely all of those things, right? But that's not too bad. You've made a very decent show of yourselves as not being excessively nerdy. Though I still think, unless you tell me that you're avid hunters or survivalists or you build classic cars or things like that, unless you can give me one of those, I still think Driving and Dragons continues to be the undefeated champion. But you've distinguished yourselves pretty well. You're at the higher end of the spectrum. So
Correct. No, we'll give him the crown. We'll defer.
Yeah, it's all him.
Yeah, it's all him. It's all him. And
thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I think that the audience really enjoyed this. And,
thank you so much.
Thank you. This was excellent. Really appreciate this.
That's great. And I hope that it helps get the word out, because I really think pretty much anyone who likes OSR stuff should check out the Arduin books. It's incredible how much of it is stuff that, and I'm sure that there's relatively few people. I was saying before we started, right, that Arduin is kind of like the Velvet Underground was to music, right? It sold 1,000 albums and it created 1,000 bands, right? And so there's so much stuff that is in there that is now standards in the OSR. It's stuff that the OSR uses all the time, but we don't realize that it was done by this pretty remarkable guy decades earlier, you know. So I think that it'll be something that will just anybody who's into the OSR and reads these books is going to be very inspired by them.
Yes.
Yeah, it's hard not to be.
Yeah. That's how we got
Near
it.
impossible, I'd say.
Yeah. Dave bought one book back in the day when we were in high school, and that started our whole trend in art.
Yeah, amazing.
So
all right. So thank you, everybody. The next episode of the Pundit Encounter will be presumably on the 9th of August. And we already do have a guest lined up for that, but I'm not going to tell you who it is yet. So, mark the date. If it changes, I'll let you guys know. And thank you very much, everybody, for watching. Currently smoking. Actually, I just finished it. Lorenzetti Alpha Rhodesian plus Argento Roots. And we'll see you all later. Thank you very much. Thanks again to our guests, and thanks to everybody who was watching.
Thank you.
And we'll see you soon. Take care.
You too.
Easy, everyone. Good evening, everybody.